Welcome to Average Joe's Pool. Today we have another in our series of DIY pool table installation videos. And in this video we're going to be showing you how to fully finish off your pockets. And so the days of having visible cuts in the faces of your pockets is officially over. Let's show you how to do it properly. So next we're going to look at attaching some pocket trims to get a really nice finish across our face here. Now of course this process is entirely optional, but there are a couple of key advantages to it. First of all, if you've got any visible cuts that are appearing, you can see just some on the corner there, then this helps to mask those and give it a nice tidy look. So with regards to these trims, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. We've already produced a video on how to do it using just cloth and staples, and we'll add a link to that video into the video description below. But the method that we're going to use today, we're going to also use a plastic strapping. And this is the stuff that you use. This is Oatey plastic hanger strap, and this is used mostly in plumbing applications for hanging pipes. This comes in a 3/4 inch width, and it's also fairly thin, so that makes it the perfect material to kind of shape around our pockets. Now if your backing material on your slate here is 3/4 inch, then you can just use this as is and you're good to go. However, if you've got a thinner one like we have here, then you may want to trim a little bit off to try and make it flush with the bottom when it's fitted correctly. So as well as our plastic strapping, the other thing that we're going to need, of course, is we're going to need some pool tablecloth. The first option, if you just replace your pool tablecloth and you've still got your old cloth, and assuming it's the same colour, of course you've got a huge amount of scrap material, so you can make these trims out of your old cloth. Or alternatively, you can use offcuts from either the cloth here from the sides or the ends, or of course from reclothing your rails. With regards to the size of the material, obviously you're going to need whatever width it is that you need, but what about the height? You have to remember our strapping here is 3/4 inch, and the way that's going to work is it needs to come down, so that's 3/4 inch. It needs to go over that, so that's another 3/4 inch, so you're already at 1.5 inches, and then you need enough material to fold underneath the slate and be stapled on. So you ideally want another minimum of 1.5 inches there. So you're going to need a minimum realistically of 3 inches of material plus the width that you need to fill the pocket. So the first thing you want to do is grab yourself a tape measure and go around the circumference of your pocket and get the measurement for the width of cloth that you're going to need. Now you want to subtract from that about 1/4 inch on that end, 1/4 inch on that end, so that's a 1/2 inch reduction in total. And of course if you already fitted your pocket liners behind the cloth like we did earlier in our installation, then you can reuse those measurements. So once you've got that measurement, remember that's the width of it, and you're going to need height wise a minimum of 3 inches of material. And then we also want to make sure that we measure up our corner pockets, because the corner pockets will be a completely different width to our side pockets. So now we need to take the measurement on our corner pockets. Now on the corner pockets we've got here, we've actually got the type where they ground the little corners off. Yours may well come all the way round and have more of a corner on it, but the principle remains exactly the same. So what you're going to do is measure the circumference. For us it's quite a shallow circle, from there to there, and remember if yours come all the way around, again you want to take about 1/4 inch off that end, 1/4 inch off that end, 1/2 inch total reduction off of your measurement. So now we have our measurement for both a side pocket and the corner pockets. Then we can go ahead and take a look at how we're going to actually make these trims. So what we'll do is cut our straps to the correct length. Obviously you've measured up the lengths that you need now. So you just want to cut your strips, mark them, and just cut them with scissors. Now because the lining on our slate is particularly thin, I'm actually going to cut these in half. So I've just mark the halfway mark. So I can just cut straight down this line. Now normally you can leave them at 3/4 inches, no problem at all. The lining on our slate is quite thin, so we're going to take these down to half the width. So I've now cut my strips, so I've got my 4 for my corner pockets and my longer ones, my 2 longer ones for the side pockets. Just a reminder, we've cut ours to half width because we have quite a thin backing material on our slate. Usually in most instances you can use these at the full 3/4 inch, no problem at all. So now I want to find some scraps of material that are definitely going to be wide enough for your trims. So So see, that one looks good, and we've definitely got plenty of material there. Remember, if you're using a full width trim, it's going to go up the back, so that's 3/4 of an inch, down the front, that's another 3/4 of an inch, and an 1.5 inches in addition. So you need a minimum in your height of 3 inches of material. Now for us, we won't need quite that much because we've halved the size of our trims here. So once you've got scrap material that's definitely wide enough, I've got this scrappy bit on the top here, so I'm just going to draw a nice square line across the top and just cut that off. You don't need to cut them to exactly 3 inches. You're better off leaving as much material as you have available there. Obviously, if you've got a super wide bit, you might be able to make 2 out of it. These are actually some of the trimmings from our rails here, so always good to recycle when you can. So now I've got a nice square piece of material ready to use. So that's one. So once we've got our piece of cloth and we've got our trim, what do we actually do? We've got 3 options when it comes to this, two of which involve attaching the cloth onto the trim here, and the other one is to do it freehand. So what you can do is you can just offer this up to your pocket, align the bottom, hold that in the correct place, and try and hold the cloth upward, put a staple in. You'll see the process in a minute. However, that can be a little bit tricky. It does make the job a lot easier if you're able to attach your plastic trim onto the cloth before you start the job. So to attach the trim onto the cloth, you've got a couple of basic options. Your first option would be to mask up the cloth, so you have a strip that's exposed the same width as your trim, and then bring in your spray glue and spray glue that on, and then literally glue the trim on. Put something heavy on top of it to keep it all flat and wait for it to dry. However, the alternative to that, if you're able to do it, and this is probably the best method, is to actually sew this on to the cloth. Now to do that, you're going to need a sewing machine with a decent thickness of needle in it, and you're going to want to do it on a nice slow speed. If you have a decent needle, it'll punch its way through this plastic, no problem at all. Just keep the speed nice and slow. And all you need to do is just sew one line straight across the trim. And that's the method that we're going to be doing, so we'll show you quickly the process for sewing these in place. This method definitely makes for a nice clean job. You're not going to get any overspray on your cloth, you're not going to get any staining on your cloth, you haven't got to wait for glue to dry. But of course, not everyone has a sewing machine, but if you do, this is definitely the best of the 3 options. So we need to have a quick think about which way up we attach our trim onto our cloth. The way that it works is when we offer it up to the pocket, this will be folded back down over the face of our pocket, and then this material will come under the slate lining. So we need to ensure that when it's folded over, it's the playing surface that's exposed. So then we want to start with the back of the material facing up. And with regards to the actual trims themselves, they already have a natural bend in them, so it's best not to try and fight that. So what you want to do is you want to sew it with the bend literally facing up, exactly like it is. So this is the back of the material here, trim bending upwards, and sew that on just like that. And then once that's sewn, of course, that bend will still be there, and it'll actually be formed with the material as well, ready to go into the face of the pocket to be folded over. So just a reminder, when you see us do this, we're going to be using our half-sized trims that we're going to be sewing on, but the process obviously is identical. It really doesn't matter what thickness you're using, the process is the same. So this is what they look like after they've been sewn. Technically they're actually this way up. You can see the curves in the right direction. So when we come to fit these, they'll be folding over, and then that'll be going under the slate on the bottom there. So now I just want to cut off this excess material I have, just poking out at the end of the trim here. You can use the trim as a guide. Just get this edge nice and flush. And just any excess on the side here, just cut that level with the end of the trim there. Just get rid of any little frayed bits of cloth, tidy it up, and we've got one there, good to go. So repeat this on the other 5, so you've got your 6 pocket trims ready to fit. So let's take a look at fitting our pocket trims. We'll start on the side pocket, which is generally a little bit harder than our corner pockets. Now what you want to find a kind of a natural line, hopefully you've got one there, that you can align the top edge to, just here. And what that line can sometimes be is often you'll find that your slate comes down and then your timber backing is actually slightly inset. So there's a small gap where it drops back, and that will give you a perfect line. If, however, you've got an MDF backing like we have on this slate here, when they cut and ground these pockets, they did it as one, so that so our MDF is absolutely flush with the face of the slate there, so that's straight down. We don't have any form of ridge there. However, early in our process, we did fit our foam pocket liners in behind the cloth in here. So I've got the bottom edge of that, which I can feel just there, and so that's going to be the line that we're going to work to. It definitely does make these easier if you can find that line to try and align them up to. So what we want to do first of all, put this into our pocket. The cloth should be facing up at this stage. I'm just going to find the centre, so I'm just going to make sure that my ends are aligned evenly here and here, and that will give me obviously the correct centre point in here. Then what I need to do is I'm going to push the top edge of it up underneath my foam edge just here. That's going to be, as I said, that's the line that I'm working to right there. So once again, make sure that we get it central, have a look at the ends, make sure that the ends are evenly spaced, and that's going to give us our starting mark for our dead centre at the back here. So I'm now ready to put a staple in the centre here. Now with regards to staples, I've changed now because we've got to go through this thick material, so I'm now using a 1/2 inch staple. You can use 1/2 inch staple on these regardless of whether you've got a timber or an MDF backing to your slate. Now what I want to do is make sure I'm definitely up underneath that edge. I'm going to fire a staple right into the centre of the plastic. Now I want to fire another staple in right around here. So again, I'm just going to I'm going to push this trim up, make sure that the top edge is definitely resting against my foam liner. Feels good there. Fire in another staple. And we just continue that round, always making sure you're getting the correct alignment. Just tucking it up underneath the foam that I've got there. And then the last one right on the outside edge. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing, bring it round to this side. So again, making sure my top edge is tucked up on the line where I want it to be, and we'll start firing in these staples. So now I've finished my staples in here, I'm going to change from my 1/2 inch staples, and I'm going back to my 3/8 because I have MDF, or 1/4 inch if you've got a timber backing. So now we fold this down over. You can kind of get an idea of what it is we're going for. So now what we need to do to be able to bend this on underneath, we've got to cut a few slots. When it comes to making these cuts, obviously we don't want to come up too high because then we're going to end up with a visible cut. So we want to definitely end our cuts very short of the bottom lip just there. So first one, I'm just going to cut straight up the middle. And then you want about a thumb's width, just a little bit wider than your thumb. Again, double check the height on your cut. And then we're just going to divide the remainder into two. Again, make sure we're not coming up too high. We'll do the same thing here. Wider than your thumb. And this into two. So I'm going to stretch these tabs under one by one and get a staple into each. I'm stapling on the underside of the frame, and again I'm not using 1/2 inch anymore. You should be using a 1/4 inch or 3/8 if you've got MDF like we have. So you're going to pull your tab down nice and straight. Stapler to help pin it in. One staple. Second one here. just repeat this all the way around. On your wider ones, you may want to put 2 staples. So as you can see here, we've hidden all of those exposed staples that we had. They've got a nice smooth finished edge. So now I'm just going to come to the underside. I like to ensure that there's 2 staples in each of these. A couple of these only got 1 in at the moment. Make sure you've got all the staples in that you want, and then we're going to trim off these excess flaps here. Once you're happy that these tabs are secured, we can just go ahead and snip off the excess. So next we're moving on to fitting our trim, this time on one of our corner pockets. As mentioned before on this particular table, this is Noel House and Grand Champion 3. On the slates here, they actually grind the corners off. But on your pool table you may well have this corner still on there, so yours will look more like this. So these 2 flat areas that we have here, you won't have those. So the process is identical to our side pockets really, but of course being a corner pocket, you've got less, even if yours is extended, you've got a much smaller radius of circle to work to. You're working with a quarter of a circle rather than a full semicircle like you have on the side pockets. So again, just looking to get your ends aligned with the edges of your corner there, and that's going to give you your center point. And once again, we have our foam liners in behind our cloth here. So what I can do is I can use that as my straight edge and push this up underneath the foam, and that's going to be what I'm going to aim my center staple for. And a reminder, we're back on the 1/2 inch staples now. So then we're just going to work to one side again. We've got that straight edge to align to, so I'm just making sure I tuck it up under that straight edge. So the key is aligning the top edge correctly. That's what you kind of have to do a little bit by feel, depending on what you have to align to on your table. Now again, I'm going to swap from my 1/2 inch staples, and because I've got MDF, I'm going back to 3/8. If you have a timber frame, I should go back to 1/4. So fold that over and down. Now we need to make our cuts. Again, remembering we don't want to cut too far up. The ends of our cut we want to make sure are definitely completely on the bottom of our slate backing. So one in the center. And then you want to do the same thing here. Because ours doesn't come all the way back round, I'm just going to put 1 cut here, 1 cut here. If yours came a little bit wider, you may well want to do 2. Now because these tabs are quite wide, I'm going to try and get 2 staples into each of these side by side on the underneath there. So now again, grab your scissors, go to the underside, make sure you're happy with the placement of the staples, make sure that everything looks firm. If you're happy with it, you can go ahead and cut these flaps off. And that's one of our corner pockets now finished. So now of course you've got to repeat that process 3 more times on your other corner pockets. And so that concludes the process on how to correctly finish your pockets. And also for your convenience, we will be adding Amazon links. Please be sure to help support what we do here at Average Joe's Pool, and please be sure to hit those links. And if you do need help with any other aspect of your pool table installation, we have numerous videos on our YouTube channel outlining every part of that process. We've already done complete DIY guides on how to level your frame, how to level your pool table slates, how to seal your pool table slates using either the Bondo or the beeswax methods, as well as installing your pool tablecloth, reclothing your rails and all sorts of fun stuff. So if you do need help with any other aspect of your installation, in the video description below we'll add a load of links for you that you might well find helpful. Now before you leave us, we always ask, if it's been helpful for you, can you take 1 second out of your busy schedule just to be sure to at the very least hit that like button for us. It really helps us out. And whilst you're there, why not also hit that subscribe button, switch on those notifications, and then you'll find out about all of our upcoming videos. And if you'd like to really help us out in return, remember we do have the super thanks option, and of course most importantly be sure to hit those Amazon links. So thank you for watching, we really appreciate it. We hope that your pool table installation goes smoothly, and we'll see you on the next video.